So the 19th century, you can see here, in the late 19th century, that is from 1815 to 1914, the growth in the population has increased the demand for the food grains in Britain. Similarly, we have seen how the population increase can affect any country. The world changed profoundly in the 19th century. What all aspects it got changed? Economic, political, social, cultural, and technological factors interacted in complex ways to transform the society and reshape the external relations. So there were profound changes in the 19th century in the spheres of economic, political, social, cultural, and technological factors that interacted in complex ways to transform societies and reshape external relations. So the economics or economists have identified three types of movements or flows within the international economic exchanges. First flow was by the 19th century referred to trade in goods. Trade in goods. Example, cloth or wheat. Second flow is labor, the migration of people in search of employment. Coming to the third one, that is the movement of capital for short term or long term investments or long distances. So basically, the economists have identified three types of movements. First one, flow of trade. We are exchanging the goods. We are carrying the goods. Cloth, wheat are the examples. Flow of labor. First is flow of goods, trade. Second is labor. People started to migrate in search of employment from rural areas to urban areas, from some nation to another nation. So local migration, national or international migration. Third one is the movement of the capital for the short term or long term investments. So we started to keep investment in other country or in other place, either for short period or long period. So these are the three types of movements which has created international economic exchanges. What are the three types of movements? 1. Flow of trade. 2. Flow of labor. 3. The movement of the capital, that is movement of capital for short or long terms. As these three flows closely got interwoven and affected people's life more deeply than never before, they started to influence people like never before. So deeply they started to get into the lives of the people. The interconnections could sometimes be broken. For example, the labor migration was often more restricted than goods or capital flows. The labor migration was often more restricted than the goods or the capital flows. Yet, it helps us to understand in the 19th century world economy better if we look at the three flows together. So in this part, we are discussing about how in the 19th century the changes have come, what made way for the reshaping of the relations. Economists have identified three movements. 1. The flow of trade. 2. Flow of labor. 3. Flow of the movements of capital for short term or long term. These three are the ways which are identified by the economists. The world economy takes shape. The world's economy is getting into shape. So a good place to start is changing the pattern of food production and consumption in the industrial Europe. Traditionally, countries like to be self-sufficient in food. Means normally, generally, every country want to be self-sufficient. But in the 19th century, Britain's self-sufficiency in food is considered as a lower living standard and social conflict. Why was this so? Why people in Britain used to feel that if you have self sufficiency in food, you are considered as you are living a lower living standard? Why did the people feel like that? The population, which was there in the 18th century, has started to increase the demand for food grains in Britain. So the growth of population has increased the demand for the food grains in Britain. Now, once the population increases, we need to produce more food grains sufficient for the population. As the food grains are not produced sufficiently, there the demand for the food grains started to increase. As urban centers expanded and industry grew, the demand for agricultural products went up. As the urban area started to expand, the industry started to grow. Slowly, the demand for the food grains also started to increase and grow up. Now, there is a lot of pressure coming on the landowners. The government started to put restrictions on the import of corn because they want it to be allowed for the local people. So, laws allowing the government to do were commonly known as corn laws. Were unhappy with high food prices. Industrialists and urban dwellers forced the abolition of the corn laws. They want the government to remove the corn laws because government kept restrictions the import of corn. The corn cannot be allowed to be imported. So people are unhappy with this, especially the industrialists and the urban dwellers. They want the abolition of the corn laws. After the corn laws were scrapped, means removed, looking at the dissatisfaction of the businessman community, food could be imported into Britain more cheaply than it can be produced within the country. If you have to produce in the country, you need to work for months, then only you will be able to produce it. Instead, it is easy to import from other countries in Asia and Africa. So, British agriculture was unable to compete with the imports. Vast areas of land were now left uncultivated because people are not interested to do agriculture now, because they are interested only to import. So thousands of men and women were thrown out of work. The flock of this went on to the cities and migrated overseas. That's how the British people started to migrate overseas. Now, as the food prices fell, the consumption in the Britain rose. Now the cost of the food increased because they're importing from other countries, the cost is less. From the mid 19th century, they saw the industrial growth in Great Britain leading to higher incomes and therefore more food imports. So basically, they are not doing agriculture and making food crop. They are only importing agriculture. But fortunately, they saw the industrial growth happening there. So their industrial production increased. Number of jobs available increased. The companies came into be profit. Thus they had to import more food grains. Around the world in the Eastern Europe, Russia, America and Australia, lands were cleared. Food production expanded in America, in Australia, in Russia, in Eastern Europe to meet the demands for the British, because they are buying everything. It was not enough merely to clear the lands for agriculture. We need to lay railway network, link the agricultural regions to the port. New harbors have to be built, old ones to be expanded in such a way that ships come with the new cargoes. Now people had to settle on the lands to bring them the new cargoes under cultivation. This means that people once settled there, they started to do cultivation. They need to build houses. They need to settle down. All these activities turned to require capital and labor. Slowly, the capital started to flow from the financial centers such as London, The demand for the labor in the places where labor was short in supply, as in America and Australia, that led to the migration. So nearly 50 million people migrated from Europe to America and Australia in the 19th century. All over the world, some around 150 million people were estimated to have left their homes, crossed the oceans and vast distances over land in search of a better future. So that is how people started to migrate. Why did people migrate? Because there are no jobs available in the Britain. Slowly they started to migrate to other places. Thus by 1890s, the global agricultural economy has taken shape. So in order to feed the British community or the British public, because they are importing food, Australia, Russia, America have cleared their lands and started to put labor and make them work and produce the food crops. This made them to make the capital flow, ecology, technology has to be brought in. Food no longer came from a nearby village or a town, but it came from thousands of miles away from their houses. It was not grown by a peasant tilling his own land, but by an agricultural worker or a slave who worked for them, now has working on a large farm than only a generation ago had most likely been a forest. It was transported by railway, built for very purpose, and by ships increasingly manned in these decades by low paid workers from southern Europe, Asia, Africa and Caribbean. So that is how the dramatic change happened through small scale, occurred closer home in the West Punjab as well. The British Indian government built a network of irrigation canals to transform the semi-desert wastes of land into fertile agricultural lands. So the British also have made certain efforts to convert wastelands into useful agricultural lands so that they can grow wheat and cotton for export. The canal colonies, as the areas irrigated by the new canals, were called the settled, were peasants from other parts of Punjab. In these areas, people started to settle down. Of course, food is merely an example. A similar story can be told for cotton, for cultivation of which expanded worldwide to feed British textile mills. Rubber, indeed, so rapidly did regional specialization in production of commodities developed that between 1820 to 1914, world trade is estimated to have multiplied 25 to 40 times. Nearly 60% of this trade comprised primary products, that is agricultural products such as wheat, cotton, minerals such as coal as well. So now we discussed till now how the British has made the world to change towards that. Why people in British used to feel that if you have self-sufficient food grains, you are living a low standard life, because in Britain they started to migrate to other places. They start to work in factories. They only import food grains. They don't produce food grains. For making them feed, the lands in Australia, lands in America, lands in Africa were cleared. Laborers were migrated from Africa and Asia to work in these fields. And from there, the food grains are imported into Britain. So if you have only those, definitely you are considered as you are living a low standard life. Right? We also discussed about the corn laws, where there is a restriction on the import of corn and the corn went into high prices. So like that, people also got understanding how the life changes. The similar stories can be told about the cotton, can be told about the rubber, can be told about any product which has changed the network and created a economic system. Now we are going to learn about the role of technology. What was the role of technology in all these things? The role of the technology, we can say railways, steamships, telegraphs were important, and the inventions that transformed the 19th century. But did technology play an important role? It would be unimaginable for us. It would be unimaginable for us to think without the growth of technology, how would the life be? The railways, the steamships, telegraphs have an important impact on our day-to-day life. We cannot even imagine the transformed 19th century world without these. The technological advancements were often the result of larger social, political, and economic factors. For example, colonization stimulated new investments, improvements in transport, faster railway network, lighter wagons, larger ships helped to move more cheaply, quickly, and far away farms to the final markets. So the technology has made this possible. The railways become better and faster with lighter wagons, larger ships moved faster, moved more conveniently at less cost. This all was possible only with the increase of technology. The trade is made offers with good examples is this connected. Till 1870s, animals were shipped live from America to Europe and then they were slaughtered after they have arrived there. From America to Europe, you have to carry all the animals living and then they used to slaughter them in the slaughterhouses. But live animals took up a lot of space in the ship and many also died in the voyage while they were traveling. They used to fall ill, lose weight, become unfit to eat. Meat became expensive and luxury beyond the reach of the European poor because of these problems. High prices in turn kept demand and production down until the introduction of new technology. Now, what is the new technology that we are using in transporting the meat? Refrigerated ships, which enable the transport of perishable foods over long distances. Now animals need not be traveling. They can be slaughtered for food at the starting point in America, Australia, or New Zealand, and then transport them to Europe as frozen meat. This also has reduced the cost. This also has lowered the meat prices in Europe. The poor in Europe could now consume a variety of meat, most varied diet. To the earlier monotony of bread and potatoes, today they are able to have meat, butter, eggs as their diet. Better living conditions were promoted. Social peace within the country and also supported the imperialism abroad. So, new technology, the role of technology is very, very crucial in bringing new changes in the 19th century. It would have been literally impossible to think any kind of changes which have come without the change in the technology. One example we have seen about the meat, how the technology has made meat available to the poorest in the European continent. The cost of the product got reduced, made comfortable to carry that. So all these things are the results of technology, the role of technology in the changes which happened in the 19th century.